Good morning, everybody. We are talking about expireds today. So this is part of our listing series that we do on Thursdays. This just varies. We're doing test outs, letting people test out of listing, buyer consultations, running through different objections, scripting, everything like that. So if you want to come in live for these, we do them in our training room normally when people show up. It's every Thursday at 9:30. We're running through different listings, objections, everything you can think of. We have our NettWork global listing presentation that you can all have access to and can find on our intranet. So we run through various topics on that, show you how to present that and deliver it. So if you come in person, awesome, we can do some more live training. For today, though, what we're going to talk about are expired listings. And I just want to verify I'm live here. So expired listings. Why do I want to talk about expired listings? For a couple of reasons. First one being because they're coming back. January 1st, we had like over 100 expired listings that, in our database that we work, our team works, meaning that a lot of homes are starting to expire. So that's a good thing for us. I built my business on expired listings starting back in 2011 because there used to be a lot. I would get 50, 60, 70, 80 different numbers to call every single day because that was a very, very strong pillar of people to call. These are motivated sellers. They've already expressed an interest in wanting to sell, and they can be some challenging phone calls because most of the time, not always, but a high probability or high majority of the time, they're angry with their last real estate agent because their last real estate agent didn't do a whole lot. So they can be a challenging phone call because they sat on the market for 60, 90, 120, 180 days without very few showings, maybe no offers, maybe some lowball offers. Their expired listing, their listing contract expires. Now all these realtors are calling them and they're wondering, where were you at when my house was on the market? Now you want to sell my house, blah, 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 right? So they're not happy usually. So there's a couple of things we have to do. We have to be able to overcome those objections. We can't just call and throw our initial script and then say no and say, okay, thank you. That's what I used to do when I first started. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I would start making calls and people would say, I'm not interested. I'd say, okay, thank you. And I'd sit there and say, please don't answer, please don't answer, please don't answer, because I didn't feel confident in my approach and what I was going to say to people. Or I'd see a house for $600,000 and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't call that. Let me call this one for $60,000. The better you get at these and the more you practice these and really the more you do them, your confidence builds. You start to win business, you start to make money. And then you can call anybody. Like today, I'd call anybody. It doesn't matter. 6 million, 600 million. It doesn't matter. I'll call everybody. I know exactly what to say and it's not being cocky. It's being confident because I've done it for years and years and years, made tens of hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of phone calls. I don't know. It's been a lot. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. So we can talk later if you want to talk. I'm just going to run through some scripting today. We're going to run some classes here in a couple of weeks where we can run you through exactly how to get the leads, how to make the calls, everything like that, the whole system side of it, using KV Core as well for a follow-up system. But we're going to call, and I'm just going to run through some scripts like a house just expired and I'm making a call. Here's my script. Here I go. Hi, this is Michael. I was calling. I'm a realtor in the area, and I'm calling because I saw your home at 123 Main Street just came off the market. And I was wondering if that property sold, or if not, is it still available? Okay, that's fantastic. I understand that it's still available. And out of curiosity, when do you plan on getting your property back on the market to get it sold? So that's my opening script. Pretty simple. Hi, my name's Michael. I'm a realtor in the area. I was calling because I saw your property at 123 Main Street had come off the market, and I was wondering if that property is still available or has it sold. The reason I don't want to ask them right away if they want to list, because they're just going to say no. So here they're going to say, no, it's still available. Completely understand it's still available. And out of curiosity, when do you intend on getting the property back on the market to get it sold? We're not. Or here's when the objections are going to come in. You know what? We're going to stay with our same agent. So you're only going to get about 6 or 7 different objections when you make these calls. So you have to be able to overcome those. So let's just say they say, you know what, I'm sticking with my same agent. Totally understand. I completely understand that you want to stay with your same agent. And what specifically is the benefit in doing that? Now, my concern is, what is your last agent going to do? And they would give an objection, right? I don't know. I'm going to stay with Susie, but I'm just going to run through because I don't need anybody to role play here. So what specifically is the benefit for you to do that? Now, I completely understand. And my concern is, what is your realtor going to do differently this time that they didn't do the last time to ensure your property actually sells? What are they going to say? I don't know. They probably haven't discussed anything. Maybe we're going to drop the price. Maybe we're going to do an open house. Maybe we're going to make some updates or whatever. Now, if you knew I could sell your property for you in this market and get your property sold, would you at least consider it? maybe not. You know what? I'm going to stick with my realtor. Certainly understand. I can appreciate that. And what it sounds like I'm hearing is that you feel obligated to your last realtor because they've invested time and money in your house. Is that correct? Right? So what are they going to say there? Maybe not. Totally get that. So then you would go into this. Now, when your realtor originally listed your house, they most likely intended to sell it. Wouldn't you agree? Yes. And I'm sure they did everything they could possible to get your home sold, right? Yeah. And yet the property didn't sell. You see, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, I'm convinced that it's not for a lack of effort on your realtor's part. It's most likely in the approach. Your house just needs a different approach. Now, you don't owe me anything, and you really don't know your last realtor anything either, but you do owe yourself the very best. And it certainly wouldn't hurt to hear what I do to get home sold, would it? It's exactly why we should get together for 15 minutes. You know what? We're just going to sell it ourselves. Completely understand you want to sell it yourselves. And what's the benefit in doing that? I want to save on commission. Totally get that. Now, commission aside, if I could put more money in your pocket while still paying my commission, would that be a benefit to you? I want them to get them to say yes. Well, yeah, but how are you going to do that? I have to pay you 6%. See, myself and my team actually specialize in getting homes sold like yours that didn't sell the first time around. We have a very proactive and aggressive marketing strategy that has allowed us to sell hundreds and hundreds of homes over the last few years, of homes that were just like yours. You see, some of the best homes on the market don't sell the first time around. And chances are your property just needs a new approach and a fresh approach. So let's do this. Would you be open to me coming out for 15 minutes and sharing with you exactly what I do to get homes sold? So there's another one right there. All right. So what I want to do is get them thinking yes. The thing about, I'm trying to see what other commissions I have here too. What are you going to do differently? What are you going to do differently? You know what? That's a great question. And I probably can certainly appreciate your concern with that. And you're absolutely right that realtors do what I often call the 3 Ps. They put a sign in the yard, they put it in the MLS, and then they pray a more proactive agent like myself comes around and sells the property. You see, I'm going to go beyond that. We do what's called reverse prospecting. Are you familiar with reverse prospecting? What I'm going to do is I'm going to have access. As soon as we list your property, I'm going to have access to every single realtor who potentially has a buyer for your home. And the way I'm able to do this is through our MLS. I have access to every single realtor who set up a home buyer with search criteria that's going to match your home. So I'm going to begin emailing all those realtors and picking up the phone and calling them. And I'm going to be able to let them know about your property. I'm going to ask them if their buyer is interested in coming to see it and when they intend on coming to see it. Now, furthermore, when their clients save your home as a favorite or a possibility, I see that as well. A heart pops up as a favorite or a light bulb as a possibility. So what I do immediately is call that realtor. I let them know their client just saved your listing as a favorite or a possibility, and I ask them when they intend to come see the property. Now, I'm going to be proactive in doing this every single week, and the reality of the situation is every realtor has access to this tool, but very few realtors use it because it requires effort. Now, you do want somebody proactive to get your home sold for top dollar and get you moved on to your next location. Where are they moving next? That's super important too. So in the conversation, I want to find out motivation. Had your house sold, you know what, we're going to stay, we're not selling. Totally understand. Now, had your property sold, where were you planning on moving to? I was going to move to Florida. Florida, that's exciting. What's taking you to Florida? I want to get there because I want to retire. I'm tired of the cold. Certainly can appreciate that. Now, are you giving up on the goal of wanting to get to Florida? Just ask them that and be blunt. It's okay. Well, no, we're not giving up on the goal. Well, fantastic. Now, if I could get your house sold in this market and net you what you need and get you to Florida so you don't have to deal with the cold anymore, that would be beneficial, wouldn't it? Well, yeah. Great. When can I come out and share with you exactly what I do to get home sold? It'll only take about 15 minutes. All right. There's another objection right there. So be thinking about these things. You know what? I already found another realtor. We found another realtor we're going to list with. Here's a script right here. Totally understand that you have found another realtor. And out of curiosity, would you be open to a second opinion? You see the reality? Yes or no? No, I'm not. Can I share a concern? My concern for you is this, that realtors, we're all independent contractors and we operate in different ways. So we have very different marketing strategies, very different approaches. We spend money in different things that can allow you to get your home sold for top dollar. It certainly wouldn't hurt to get a second opinion, would it? All right, so just get them thinking. All right, what's another one? If you're on the call too, drop some questions in. We're taking it off the market. We decided to stay. That goes back to a motivation. Go back to motivation. Totally understand you want to stay. You're going to take it off the market. Where were you planning to move and had your home sold? Now, sometimes they might say none of your business, but very rarely, 1 out of 10, they might say that's none of your business. 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, I'm going to Florida, or I'm going to Lake St. Louis, or I'm going to the city, or wherever. Ask them the questions. All right. What about this? What's your commission? What's your commission? Don't ever say the commission over the phone. Because guess what? They see on TV someone's going to sell for 3% or 4% or 5%. And you say, oh, my commission's 6%. Click. You know, it's a great question. My commission is completely negotiable. Let's do this. When I come out tonight, we can sit down. I can go through our whole commission and how it works and share with you. Our commission is negotiable and flexible. Why don't we? I'll sit down and share with you, and we can make a determination on that. At the end of the day, it's all about putting the most money in your pocket. Correct? Allow me to come out and show you through my marketing how I can do that to net you the most money possible. Now, let's say you get on the appointment and they say, you know what, another agent said they could do it for 5%. You're at the close. You've given your listing presentation. Everything's good. And they ask the question, what's your commission? All right. You know what? That's a great question. My listing fee for my professional service fee is 6%. And then pause. Pause. Why do you pause? Because what a lot of people do is they say, you know what? My commission is 6%, but I can do it for 5%. You just cut yourself 1%. If you can get really good at the listing presentation we provide, oftentimes people will start to say, this is when you know you're really good at it. They'll say, oh, it's 6%. Oh, I thought it was going to be more. I've had that happen many times. If you can get really, really, really good at delivering your listing presentation and showing enough value, people are going to be relieved when they hear it's 6%. So if you're not getting that, that means you're not doing a good enough job on your listing presentation. I'm just being totally honest. You need to practice more. You need to practice to get as good as you possibly can on that. So get to the point when they ask you what your commission is and you say 6%, they're relieved that it's only 6%. Now, have I taken commissions for less? Yes. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say I haven't. I have. I definitely have. I like to compete. I like to win. I like to make money. So yes, and I never lead with the fact that I'm cheap. The professional service fee for my services is 6%. Pause. Let them speak. Let them respond. Because they might say, oh, thank goodness. Or they might say, oh, you know what? Well, so-and-so said they could do it for 5 or 4. All right. So I want to address that. You know what, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I completely understand. And I know there are discount brokers out there in this market. And may I share a concern with you? Now, if the discount broker isn't strong enough to negotiate on their own behalf, how good of a job do you think they're going to do when it comes time to negotiate the best possible price for your home? You see, not only are you paying me to sell your home, you're paying me to negotiate the best possible price property to put the most money in your pocket, correct? Yeah, guess you're right. And did that discount broker share with you how the commission works? No, they didn't. Allow me to share with you. So out of my 6% fee, half of that immediately gets paid to any realtor that brings the buyer. So any realtor that brings the buyer, we immediately give them about 3%, leaving me with the remaining 3%. Now, out of that remaining 3%, 1% goes to taxes. You can't sell anything in the United States without paying taxes. 1% is going to go to the marketing of your home, and 1% is what I get paid to live on and feed my family with. So my concern for you is that if another realtor is willing to list your property at a lesser commission, what do you think they're going to cut out? The marketing of your home or what they take home to feed their family with? Well, probably the marketing. Exactly. And at the end of the day, when we're sitting at the table, at the closing table, do you want your proceeds check to say that you paid your realtor the least or that you put the most money in your pocket? Well, sign with me and I assure you I'm going to do everything I can to put the most money in your pocket through my aggressive and proactive marketing plan. So those are different things you can talk about from commission perspective as well. These are things that will come up. And these are things you want to practice and get really, really good at. So you want to practice your listing presentation often, every week. You should be practicing your listing presentation. If you're new, it should be a daily thing. Practice, 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 repetition. Don't practice on the appointment. I have people tell me all the time they practice on the appointment. Well, that's stupid. You would never, if you're playing sports, you would never just practice at the game because you would lose every single time. So you go to practice when you play sports so you can be prepared for the game. It's the same way with real estate. A listing appointment or a buyer consultation is the game. You have to practice outside of the game. Don't just show up on game day and expect to be great. Practice these things. Objections are going to happen, right? If I'm sitting at the closing table and they say, you know what, everything sounds good. I get through commissions and they still don't want to sign. I say, okay, aside from on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in my ability to get your home sold? In 8. Okay, that's a little lower than I usually get. Here, what would I have to do to make it a 10? Well, you know what? Another realtor said they would do drone footage. Fantastic. If I added in drone footage, would everything else you've seen, would it make this experience a 10? Yes, it would. Fantastic. I'll have my photographer do drone footage. Done. Right? So you have to isolate the objection because if they're sitting there and you say 6% and they just say, okay, and then you go in for, are you prepared to sign the contract to put me to work for you? And they say, no, we need to think about it. That right there is an objection. So what that is, it's an unanswered question in the mind of the seller. Something's going on in the seller's mind that you haven't addressed, that they don't feel completely confident in what you're doing. So then they say, well, you know what, I don't know, the commission's a little bit high. I want to isolate the objection and figure out, is there anything else that's stopping them from signing with me? So what I would say is, aside from the commission, is there anything else that would stop you from signing with me today to put me to work for you? No, it's just the commission. Fantastic. So if we can figure out the commission, you're prepared to sign the contract? Yes, I am. Great. Now I know that's my only objection. I don't want to go fight with commission and negotiate commission if there's 5 other things that are going to stop them from working with me. So isolate that objection and then move in and solve that problem. Now, here's another one with commission. So let's just say, yeah, it's only commission. You know what? So-and-so said they do it at 5%. You're at 6%. I go through my breakdown and I explain what I just did on how the commission works. They're still not on board. What if I do this, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller? If I find a buyer for your property through my proactive and aggressive marketing, I will take your listing at 4%. So if I represent you and the seller as a dual agent, the buyer as a dual agent, I will reduce my commission to 4%. If we do it the traditional route where a co-op realtor brings the buyer, it stays at 6%. How does that sound? Throw that out there, because now all of a sudden you're flexing and you're doing even better. If somebody's at 5%, now you're going to do it for 4% if you double side it. And the reality of the situation is you're not going to double side that many deals, so you're not really giving a whole lot away. And if you do double side it, you're still getting 4% of the sale price, and you're working with yourself and you're not competing against some other co-op agent that doesn't know what they're doing. So the transaction should run much smoother. Now everyone's going to use your vendors, use your lender, this and that, your title company, you close at the same title company, everything runs smoother. So use that as well. If I were to find the buyer for this property and operate as a dual agent, I'll reduce my fee to 4%. If not, we keep it at 6%. How does that sound? Oh, that sounds like a fair trade-off. Fantastic. Sign the paperwork. Let's get to work. So practice this stuff. Be thinking about this stuff. This is stuff we're doing every single week. So if you want scripting, I can send you scripts. Drop comments in there. Let's see. Okay, I got a question here. I'll have to pay top dollar to purchase. Yes, absolutely. Here's what I can do. Are you familiar with off-market properties? So if they say I have to pay top dollar, I could sell my house right now and get top dollar, but I'd have to go pay more, and rates are higher, right? So interest rates are higher. There's another one there. Totally understand. Totally understand that right now we're in a market where, yes, you still can get top dollar and you may have to pay more. Now, are you familiar with off-market properties? What off-market properties are, these are properties where myself and my team have talked to these potential sellers, and they've indicated that they would consider selling if the right buyer came along. However, they don't want to formally list their home on the market today. So what I can do is go into my database and match you with these potential sellers and find you a property potentially before it even hits the market. Therefore, you're not competing in multiple offer situations. It's like getting inside information, which is pretty cool. Wouldn't you agree? So how do we find these properties? One, if you start doing circle calls, you start building a database. This is one thing. This is why in your business, doing circle calls where you're calling around neighborhoods is very important. Where you're talking to a lot of people that would maybe consider selling is very important, and get them into your KV Core database. Because now you can go back to your database and look at who are my prospect list of people that I could potentially call that might consider selling their home. All right. Or I can go back and look through neighborhoods that your potential seller here is interested in buying in, and I can look at all of the expireds, cancels, withdrawns to see if they would potentially be interested in selling now. Maybe there's a house that was listed last year, 2 years ago, or 3 years ago that never sold. I might be able to go call those sellers now. They're active, withdrawn, active, canceled. You know, they're temporary off market, then expired, whatever it is. I can go call those sellers now and see if they might be interested in selling in this market today. So there's another objection right there. I'm going to go help you find a property and get you the best possible deal, right? A big part of this too, though, is figuring out motivation. Now, if somebody has, let's just say somebody's sitting there at a 2%, 2.5% interest rate, they don't need to sell. Don't really have a rush to sell. They're just kind of like, well, we're kind of been kicking it around. They're not going to be super motivated. So that's going to be a more difficult seller to convert. Whereas we have to go find more motivated people, right? Because if I have a 2.5% interest rate on my mortgage, I'm probably not thinking about moving unless I absolutely need to, unless I'm getting relocated or I've outgrown my home and I need more space. I've got another baby on the way. I need an extra bedroom. So we have to dive into motivation on that as well. Because somebody that's just thinking about moving for the sake of moving and they're just kind of like, yeah, if a super awesome deal pops up, maybe I'd consider it and go from 2.5% to 6% interest rate. It's probably not probable. We need to go find motivated people. With rates too, where can we find these training videos like this one? On our intranet, NettWorkGlobalAgents.com is where we're starting to drop a lot of videos. So you should be able to find those. Also, if you scroll through this Facebook group too, you should be able to find them. Interest rates. You know, I don't want to pay a high interest rate. Totally understand. I understand rates are higher than they were historically, or than they were in the last couple of years. And from a historical perspective, rates are still quite low. Historical average rate right now is 8% over the last 30 to 40 years. So here's my concern. If we wait, what if rates go up? What if rates go up 1% or 2%? Were you aware that for every 1% in interest rate rises, you actually lose 10% buying power? That means if you're looking at a $500,000 house today and you wait until next year, rates go up 1%, you're going to lose $50,000 in buying power and be forced to look at homes for $450,000. Would you be okay with that? Now, the benefit to buying now is that we can find you a good deal through our off-market properties potentially. We can lock you in at still a historically low interest rate. And what we can do is rates drop, you can refinance and lock in at a lower rate. Now, something else that we haven't been able to do in the last couple of years is we can also ask the seller for closing costs. That's something that hasn't been available for a couple of years because so many people were paying over asking and they were waiving appraisal, they were waiving inspections, they were waiving all of these things, home warranties, they were waiving closing costs. They were waiving all these things because they were so desperate to get a house. All of that's back now. So you're actually in a better position as a buyer right now, even though rates are higher, because you can get an appraisal, because you can do your home inspections, and we can ask for closing costs. So what we can do is ask for closing costs from the seller, and we can use that money to buy your interest rate down. There's a program that lenders offer called a 2-1 buy down. And what that's going to allow us to do is have the seller pay for you to have a lower interest rate by 2% in year one. So if rates are at 6% right now, you're going to get locked in for a year at 4%. Next year, it's going to go to 5%. And then in the third year, it goes back up to the prime rate of 6%. However, within the next 2 years, if rates, which the probability is high that they'll lower, you can refinance your property and lock in for a 30-year fix. So essentially what we're doing is getting your seller to buy down your interest rate to keep your payment lower over the next 2 years. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So there you go with rates too. It's all about how we spin the conversation to our sellers. One, by finding out motivation, and two, having the resources and the tools to be able to have these conversations with people and feel confident in our approach and delivery to it. And the way we get confident in our approach to be able to deliver this information is by practicing. That's why scripts are so important. So if you have a hang up on scripts, because I often hear people say, oh, well, I don't do scripts because they don't sound like me. Well, they're not supposed to sound like you. They're supposed to sound like a super successful realtor. So if you're brand new to the industry, you're like, oh, it just doesn't sound like me. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to sound like somebody that sold 1,000 houses. The way you can sound like you've sold 1,000 houses without having to sell 1,000 houses is by practicing. So if you practice these things every single day, you're going to get better and better and better and better and better. And it's just going to roll off your tongue. And all of a sudden you're going to be like we had somebody a while back that was like, wow, they impressed themselves. They're like, I sounded really good. And they did. They did a really good job of practicing. And on the actual call, the stuff was just rolling off their tongue. Every objection they got thrown at, they were able to handle it. And they hung up the phone calls like, whoa, that was awesome. That's the power of practice. Practice your listing presentations, practice your buyer consultations, practice your objection handlers, and I promise you, you're going to go win more business. If you have any other questions, drop them in. If not, we will see you guys next time. Thanks.